Have you ever been to a business or a store, perhaps a restaurant, and you've seen those comment boxes that says, we need your help, please put a comment. You ever seen those before? Come on. Yeah, you've seen the comment boxes before. Okay, so check this out. So someone collected these particular comments from a wilderness area in northwest Wyoming. It's called Bridger Wilderness, remind you, wilderness area in northwest Wyoming. These are actual comments that were found in this box. Check this out. Okay, first one says trails need to be reconstructed. Please avoid building trails that go uphill. Too many bugs, another comment card. Too many bugs and leeches and spiders and spider webs. Please spray the wilderness to rid the areas of such pests. I like this one. The coyotes made too much noise last night and kept me awake. Please eradicate these annoying animals. Ooh. All right, here we go. One more, here we go. A small deer came into my camp and stole my jar of pickles. Is there a way I can get reimbursed? Please call 714-IDIOT. No. And then the last one is, there are too many rocks on the mountain. What were these people thinking? Going to a wilderness area. What did they expect to find? And I think that these folks, I don't know what they were looking for, but kind of like a lot of us, we're kind of looking for comfort and ease, right? If someone can kind of just remove all those barriers in front of us. But if you live long enough, you discover that life is full of uphill paths, of leeches and spiders, and coyotes, also known as children, that howl and keep you awake at night, and when they become adult children, you toss and turn and worry about them. So that's reality. And there are a lot of rocks in our way. But also, as we go down life's path, as we kind of negotiate our way through our own wilderness at times, we face something of great danger to all of us. We face issues in our life. We face circumstances in our life that appear to us in the form of a giant. A giant. Right now, all of us probably have a giant in our lives right now. A problem, a circumstance, a situation that seems so big, so tall, that it's going to overwhelm your life, that it's going to take you down. Well, today, we're going to look at what to do about giants in our land. And probably one of the most iconic stories of all time, and probably the original, goat of giants, has to be a guy we heard about years ago by the name of Goliath. Goliath was one bad dude. Goliath was a Philistine. He was a guy who pitted himself against the Israelites and King Saul. And let's see just how big that giant is. And let's see if there's anything that would help us as we attempt to face the giants and slay the giants in our own life. Check out this story in 1 Samuel 17. So if you have a Bible, you can turn to 1 Samuel 17. If not, look on the screen. I'm reading from the polarizing Message translation today, but bear with me. All right, here we go. You have these two armies that have their own kind of stronghold. You have the Philistines on one hill, you have the Israelites on another hill, and then in the valley below is where the battle is going to take place. So before the battle takes place, before these two armies just unload you-know-what on one another, let's see what happens. Look at verse 4. It says a giant nearly 10 feet tall stepped out from the Philistine line into the open, Goliath from Gath. He had a bronze helmet on his head. He was dressed in armor that weighed 126 pounds. He wore bronze shin guards and carried a bronze sword. His spear was like a fence rail. The spear tip alone weighed over 15 pounds. His shield bearer walked ahead of him. So Goliath comes down the hill. He stands in the valley, and he calls out to the Israelite troops, "Why bother using your whole army? Am I not Philistine enough for you? And you're all committed to Saul, right? So pick your best fighter and pit him against me. If he gets the upper hand and kills me, the Philistines will become your slaves. But if I get the upper hand and kill him, you'll all become our slaves and serve us. I challenge the troops of Israel this day. Give me a man. Let us fight it out together." Goliath is big, he's strong, but he's also a pragmatist. Why shed all this blood? Why not you guys get a representative to fight me, to enter into the ultimate cage match, and let's see what happens. Well, when the Israelites heard this, check it out, look at verse 11. It said, when Saul and his troops heard the Philistine challenge, they were terrified and lost all hope. That's what giants do, don't they? Giants instill fear in us. Giants cause us to cower. Giants fill us or flood our hearts with a sense of fear and dread. And look at verse 18. It said, each morning and evening for 40 days, Goliath took his stand and made his speech. They're giants in the land. They're giants in your life, in my life, that we have to face, that we have to fight. But giants are interesting creatures. Not just because of their size, but because of their taunting nature. A giant is always there, like Goliath, to taunt you and to taunt me, to hurl insults at you, to say to you, you don't have what it takes to beat me. I am going to beat you into submission. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough to take on this giant. And the giant, like a good foe and gifted enemy that they are, gets inside your head and gets inside your heart and fills you with fear. Giants not only taunt us, giants haunt us. The giant that you're thinking about right now, the giant that is in your life, is not going to go away. I've discovered that giants in our lives are relentless. Did you hear that last verse? Day and night, Goliath would make his speech. Day and night, he would taunt them. Day and night, he would haunt them. Have you noticed when you have a real problem, a giant of a problem in your life, that when you try to go to bed at night, you can't? You toss and turn and toss and turn. And your heart and your mind is filled with worry and anxiety about tomorrow, about the future, about how you're going to make it, and how in the world are you going to face this giant? And then finally, with the help of vitamin A, Ambien, you go to bed. and you sleep some kind of weird sleep, and you wake up in the morning and the haze and of the sleeping pill, and then you wake up and that problem, that giant is still there. The giant is inside your head. The giant is taunting you. The giant is creating doubt. The giant is creating fear. Won't go away. And the giant is dictating your life. The giant is calling the shots. And like the Israelites, like Saul, we think, hey, we can go hide in our tent and maybe that giant will just shut up. I mean, it's been 40 days. How long can this thing really last? Maybe we can just kind of hide in the tent and maybe we can, fight our giant tomorrow. Or maybe our giant's just going to go away, right? If I just ignore it long enough, maybe the giant really won't bear down on my life. So, what is the giant that you know you have to face right now? Not tomorrow. Not after I do this, not after I do that. But what is a giant in your life that you know you have to face? Because if you don't face this giant, the price is too great. You're going to have to pay a price. I'm going to have to pay a price for not facing the giant or the giants in our life. We can't allow that. I remember years ago, there was a giant in my life that was staring me down and was filling my heart with fear. And there was a young guy in our congregation, a young guy in our church who had been through a lot in his life. And he spoke these words to me. He didn't even know that God was speaking to him. But he was saying, listen, Ben, God did not design us to live in fear. No matter how big, no matter how bad, no matter how tall, no matter how armored your giant is, no matter how much he taunts you day and night, saying, I'm not going to go away, you don't have what it takes. God didn't design us to live in a state of perpetual fear. But if you listen right around the corner, you can hear a voice that's calling us. If you listen, you can hear a voice that's calling us to face our giants. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Rocky 1 or Creed 2 or Star Wars or Hunger Games or Cinderella. We all love underdog. We love the underdog story. So if we listen, we can hear the voice of underdog. Look at verse 32. The voice comes from the field into the battlefield and says, Master, said David, don't give up hope. I'm ready to go and fight this Philistine. Saul answered David, you can't go and fight this Philistine. You're too young. You have no experience. He's been in the fighting business since before you were born. David said, hey, I've been a shepherd, tending sheep for my father. Whenever a lion or bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I'd go after it, knock it down with my slingshot, rescue the lamb. If it turned on me, I'd grab it by the throat, wring its neck, and kill it. Lion or bear, it made no difference. I killed it. And I'll do the same thing with this Philistine pig who is taunting the troops of God alive. God who delivered me from the teeth of the lion and the claws of the bear will deliver me from the Philistine. Saul said, go and God help you. You're an idiot, you know. So out of the blue, underdog appears. David appears. He had been in the fields, and his brothers were on the front lines in this army getting ready to attack the Philistines. And when he was there, he heard the taunts of the giant, and he was offended. He was angered. He also heard about the prize if you killed the giant. You got Saul's daughter's hand in marriage, and you got your taxes exempt for the rest of your life. Read about it. It's there. And you're set. He said, hey, man, I want that deal. So what did he do? He said, I'll go. I'll stand up to this giant. I'll fight this giant. Where did he get the courage? Where did he get the audacity? You know, Sun Tzu in his book, The Art of War, put it this way. He said, every battle is won before it's ever fought. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. David knew that. David had fought many battles. David had felt the fear and smelt the ugly breath of a lion and a bear. He had tackled these problems. David was prepared. David had skills. David knew the power of God. And if we're going to face the giants in our life, we have to be prepared to do the hard work behind the scenes. When no one's looking, when no money is on the line, when no one is looking over our shoulder to be sure we're doing it right or to be sure we're doing our homework, when we're out and by ourselves, we have to do the difficult work of discipline and develop the skills necessary to prepare us to fight our giant. It's a shepherd field that prepared David for the battlefield. It's the shepherd's field that prepares us for the battlefield. The work of daily prayer. Daily surrendering yourself to God. Daily giving yourself to Him. Daily following Him in the so-called mundane tasks of life. The shepherd field prepares us for the battlefield. So will David. The underdog, out of nowhere, wants to fight the baddest, ugliest, strongest, well-armed giant of all time, Goliath. Saul, once he said, hey, good luck, God bless you, buddy. Once he said that, he goes, hey, here's my armor. You know the story. And David tried to put on Saul's armor, and this is kind of funny. It's kind of like when you're 5 years old, you put on your parents' clothes, and he was kind of clunking around, and said, man, this is not going to work for me. I've got my slingshot. I'm going to pick out a couple of smooth stones. I'm going to put it in my backpack and go fight this giant. So check it out. Look at verse 43. We see Goliath and David engaging in some trash talk, but it's constructive, believe it or not. Check it out. The Philistine ridiculed David. He said, am I a dog that you come after me with a stick? And he cursed him by his gods. Come on, said the Philistine Goliath. I'll make you roadkill for the buzzards. I'll turn you into a nasty, tasty morsel for the field mice. I'll grind your bones to make my bread, right? Look at David answered. You come at me with sword and spear and a battle axe. I come at you in the name of God of the angel armies, the God of Israel's troops, whom you curse and mock. This very day, God is handing me over to you. I'm about to kill you. Cut your head off. Serve up your body and the bodies of your Philistine buddies to the crows, and here they are again, coyotes. The whole earth will know that there's an extraordinary God in Israel. Everyone gathered here will learn that God doesn't save by means of sword or spear. The battle belongs to God, and he's handing you to us on a platter. Yeah. And as the story goes, Goliath is advancing. He's probably about 35 yards from David. David moves towards the Goliath. He has that slingshot. He hurls that stone, and it hits Goliath right in the forehead and sinks into his head, and he falls to the ground. Now you say, how is that possible? Well, there was a guy named Dr. Hirsch, who was part of the Israeli Defense Forces, and he estimated that someone with a skill who knew how to throw a slingshot like that at that distance, that rock was probably leaving David's sling going at a top speed of 76 miles per hour. So it was like a precise assassin's bullet struck Goliath right there in the old noggin. He fell down on the ground. David then, in UFC cage fight fashion, instead of Goliath being counted out like in boxing, he jumps out on him, jumps on top of him, slices off his head, and holds his head up. And then the armies of Israel rout the Philistines, and it is game over. And David has gone from being an underdog, shepherd boy, mama's boy, to being the hero and the eventual king of Israel. David was prepared in the shepherd's field for the battlefield of life, and he defeated the giant Goliath. How did he do it? Well, obviously, he had great confidence. He had great skills. But he also knew that he served and had a great God. From our perspective, from CNN's perspective, from Fox perspective, from ESPN, the sports that covered it, it looked like David was the underdog. David didn't see himself as the underdog. Not at all. David was confident. David said, listen, I have fought other foes in my life. I have fought wild animals with a slingshot and the power of God. I can fight this little midget that we think's a giant. David basically thought in his mind, you know what? My God is bigger than your giant. My God, God of wonders, God of majesty, the one who has brought the victory for us, my God is stronger than your giant. David didn't see himself as an underdog, as a small shepherd boy. He saw himself as a representative of the King of Kings. He saw himself as someone empowered by the very presence of God. That's how he faced and killed his giant. See, our problem is this. Our problem is we listen to the giant way too much. We let the giant get inside our head. We talk about the giant. We complain about the giant. We whine about the giant. We text about the giant. We post about the giant. It's all about the giant. David didn't really care much about the giant. Did you notice that? He didn't talk about how tall he was, how big he was, what a great warrior and champion he was. No, David was all about God. Because my God's a mighty God. My God's a powerful God. My God is a God who's brought me through many storms and battles. This is my God. My God's bigger than your giant. I'm going to go in and fight this guy. I'm going to chop his head off. I'm going to parade it around. Because he knew his God. He knew that God had brought him victories and was going to bring him through this victory because God is bigger than our giants. You see, we're not David. We're not David. You're not going to drive out in the parking lot today or wake up tomorrow or try to go to bed tonight and there's some 10-foot tall giant waiting for you at your home. That's not going to happen. But we all have our giants. We all have our problems that won't go away. I like what David Jeremiah said. He said, it's all right to talk to God about your problems, but sometimes you need to talk to your problems about God. That's good, isn't it? Put that on the screen. It's all right to talk about God, to talk to God about your problems, but sometimes you need to talk to your problems about God. Are we dwelling in our minds about the power of God? Are we talking to ourselves and others about the promises of God, the provision of God, the power of God, the victory of God? Or are we talking all the time about the giant, about the fear, about what's going to happen if? God didn't design us to live in fear. He designed us to face our giants in His power. In His power. You see, we had someone represent us a long time ago, didn't we? He was the one man who represented us before the ultimate giant, I guess, Satan himself, and he defeated the giant on that cross in that empty tomb. And now we're to go out and face our own giants, not in our own strength, but in the power and strength that He gives to us. As we face our own rocks, our own wilderness, our own bears and pray-tell coyotes, and as we slay those giants in our life. Pray with me. Father, I thank You that we need You. Father, we need to hear these ancient stories that have such powerful meaning in the presence, God. We need You, God. We need Your strength. We need Your courage to stand down and face the giants in our life. Father, I pray for those that are here right now who say, I need a place where I can belong. I need a place where I can grow. I need a place where I can develop community with men and women and young folks where we can face our giants together. So God, I pray for those who need to stand and walk down front today and join this church family. God, I pray for this time of invitation, of opportunity. Use it, we pray, through Jesus.